Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello and welcome to Self-Improvement Atlas, the personal science insight podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Aditi Kuti. Let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Self-Improvement Atlas, the Personal Science Insights podcast. I'm your host, Aditi Kuti, and this is a bit of a special episode because it will be my last time hosting the show. I am moving on from Life Management Science Labs, but I am leaving the show in very capable hands, and we're going to meet Marie today, Marie Stella, who is going to be our new host of the show. Marie, hi.
Hi.
Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I love music. I have a cat. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to me. I do cook, but sometimes I get tired because we're all human and we have lives. I feel like I go through phases of it. That's pretty much all there is to me. I'm pretty boring.
I feel that about loving cooking, but getting a bit tired of it after a while.
Yeah, it's like I go through phases where I'm like super motivated to cook, and I have this cookbook collection that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make full use of it. When actually I only use like 2 recipes from the entire fucking cookbook collection. So
yeah. Well, here's to more recipes
Yeah.
from that book. We've got a really quick section called Have You Met Marie Stella, which is a section we normally do with our guests, but we're now going to do with you so we can get to know you better.
Cool.
Are you happy to answer some very basic questions about yourself?
Sure.
Fantastic. What is your favorite book?
The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's poetic. It's colorful. It's just amazing.
It's a lovely book,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's the kind of book, like I read that obviously as a child.
Yeah.
But if I were to read it again as an adult, I know I would have the best time.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot more underlying meaning to it when you're reading as an adult, compared to when you read it as a child and you're like, oh, it's just about a really hungry caterpillar. That's it. And then you read it as an adult and you're like, holy shit, there's so much subtext.
Okay.
How fun. How fascinating.
I now have to go and
Yeah.
reread The Very
Children's
Hungry
literature.
Caterpillar. Moving on from children's literature, what about a movie? What is your favorite movie?
I swear I'm not joking. It's going to sound like I'm joking, but it's not. Barbie, Princess and the Pauper.
That is a really good movie. I'm with you on that. I support you 100% on that choice.
It's one of the best.
It's as a... I've seen, I think that's probably one of the last Barbie movies I've seen, and I think that shows my age. But it's a really good one. It's definitely a high note to end on.
It's the one I grew up with. And I think we're in the same age group, so we probably both grew up with it.
I think it was definitely out when I was like a child. But for me, my Barbie movie was Barbie and the Nutcracker. That was my first ever film. I got it on VHS. Yeah,
I think I was already pretty old when Nutcracker came out.
I think that was the first one. Pretty sure Nutcracker was the first. That's okay.
Oh, well.
We will Google it later.
Well, then I just didn't get on board with it. And I was like, what's this piece of crap?
I think it's no, I think we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we will solve this mystery, but we will not do it on this show.
Yeah. Now's not the time.
Rest assured, we're both excited for the Barbie live action movie that's going to be coming up anyway. So that's settled at the very least. What's a podcast that you've been listening to lately?
I haven't listened to many podcasts lately, apart from this one, because I have to.
Don't say that.
But Behind the Bastards is a really good podcast. It's about the most monstrous figures in the history of the world. And it's just really fascinating the amount of research that goes into it, and comedy as well, scripted and unscripted. And it's just a vibe, just to have a laugh and learn things, and yeah, just chill after work or something.
I love it. I'm going to check it out. We were talking about this before we started recording as well. I'm so keen to check it out at some point when I get home. Who's a famous role model that you admire?
Taylor Swift.
Okay, valid.
Yeah, just she. I feel like she's just so incredibly versatile with her songwriting. The way she transitioned from country music to pop music to folk to indie, it's just how do you and while maintaining that same signature style of songwriting, I think her lyrics are like her strongest selling point. But then there's also like the talent with the marketing and the fan engagement and everything. It's just a vibe just being a Swiftie. And I feel like people who don't engage with it are kind of missing out a bit. Like, the people, they're like, oh, that seems like a lot. I don't want to like ever know anything about Taylor Swift. Like that's like too well. I have something to say, and it's like just listen to a couple of the good ones, the good songs. I think you'll like them. Maybe there's something for everyone.
You were preaching to your future audience, and for that, I'm glad. All right, and final question: what's the last course that you completed?
It's just my master's degree. That's it. Yeah.
What did you get your master's degree in?
All right. Yeah. Media.
Media. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. What was your thesis on?
Video games.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote about the ecological tropes in video games, which is really interesting because we see a lot of the same things pop up with certain types of characters or certain types of enemies, some types of environments. They're all pretty much almost homogenous. They're always the same type of things in any kind of RPG video game. So that was interesting to find out why and if it's possible to stray away from that. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's boring stuff.
Link me.
No,
no, I'm serious. Link me. That sounds so cool. I definitely would love to read more about that. I love a good niche thesis, personally.
It was really niche. My teacher was like, I'm sorry, I can't give you any feedback on this. I don't know how to, So
I think that's a good thing, though. I think some of my favorite research papers are to read are the type that are just incredibly niche. Like it's some person that's obviously deep dived very heavily into one topic, and they're probably the only person in the world who's done so.
Or cares about it.
And I think those are my favorite types to read.
Yeah, because it's also like when you eventually find that one other person that does care about it, it's like, jackpot.
Exactly.
Yeah, I knew I was catching on to something here.
All right. Well, we've gotten to know you now. You are known. And now when you take over the podcast, people are going to have a better idea of who you are. But I want to ask you a little bit more about, I guess, this show specifically, Self-Improvement Atlas, which is about personal development. And I want to hear a little bit about your views on the topic as a whole. To begin, how do you define personal development?
I would define personal development as just constantly thinking about the choices that you make and questioning it, but also giving yourself the space and time and kindness that you would give to other people, and just really, improving yourself, being a better person, being open-minded, because as life goes on, as we experience life, we experience different people, and inevitably our opinions are going to change. The things we do to interact with different people, it's going to change, and we need to be receptive to that. So I think that's probably my biggest, my main definition of personal development. But I think it's a huge topic as well. But that's the main one.
Well, it is a huge topic. You're right, and that's why we have an entire show about it.
Yeah.
So that really helps.
So many different episodes.
But I totally get that. I think it's you made a really great point about the world around us keeps changing, so we have to keep changing, and the people we talk to are going to change who we are as well. So I think that's kind of that makes a lot of sense, and I think it mirrors actually a lot of what our experts have said on the show. So I'm sure you'll fit right in in terms of what they'll say. What aspects of yourself do you wish to improve?
I think I say sorry too much, and it will come off as insincere, which it never is. It's just like, I know some people are going to feel that way, and I don't want them to think that way. Also, because the more I say sorry, the more it cheapens the value of my sorry. And sometimes it's actually really not my fault, so I don't know why I'm apologizing. I'm just so afraid of offending people or getting people annoyed, but I should just be less afraid of that. We get on people's nerves sometimes.
Yeah.
It's part of life. Just it's fine. And then there's also, I think I just don't show myself enough kindness. I'm really, really hard on myself. And I've gotten that comment from a lot of people before. Never realized it until now that I am really hard on myself. So I think those are the two things that I want to change. But also, the third one.
It's always good to have more than two.
Third one probably used to be more assertive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good at being firm. I think because I'm so caught up with being kind, like I just want to be nice and kind.
Yeah.
And then I'm not firm enough with some people. And then it just ends up snowballing, and it's not a good experience. Yeah, but it's also more fair to them if I do like learn how to be firm, because it's not fair if they just go on like not knowing what they're doing wrong. Anyway, it's a whole thing.
No, I think those three really tie pretty much under this umbrella of like people pleasing, which I think is like something that especially women struggle with so much. Being assertive was actually one of my goals for 2022 and 2023. I think I've gotten better at it, but most of that has been in written communication, where I'll draft an email and then I'll go back and get rid of all the exclamation marks.
Yeah, because it's easier to do it when you don't have to look the person in the eye.
Yes, exactly. And then like I get rid of all the adjectives, like really and all of that, which I often use as filler words when I'm speaking in day-to-day life. But you're so right. And I guess in terms of like, there's those little things which are relatively easy to do, but when it comes to actually interacting with people in person, it's so much harder to like be assertive in front of other people, and to, for example, not say sorry as much. I think they go hand in hand. You didn't do anything wrong, but you apologize. That's kind of being more assertive will help with that. And it's also being kind to yourself. You're too busy being kind to other people to be kind to yourself.
I think a huge part of it is also because I was talking about this with my therapist one time. And a huge part of it is being brought up in Asian culture. It's a huge part of Asian culture to just give in to authority or the people before you.
Yeah.
Even if they are in the wrong, you just give them the right of way. And yeah, it's just it's woven into the fabric of Asian culture, and it's just what's been ingrained in us so much. And then now that we're growing up, it's hard to get that out of our system and or relearn it. Yeah,
I think like, I don't know if it's whether it's because of my Asian culture, or if it's because of being a woman, or if it's because of being either one of those things in a Western country that has made me this way. But I feel like I have imposter syndrome. One of those things has caused my imposter syndrome.
it could be like a mix of just everything.
Evil mix of everything.
It could be just a freaking mash pot. Mash pot is not the word. Melting pot.
Melting pot.
Yeah, Mm.
An ugly meatloaf.
Yeah.
of
It's
all
a
of those
fugly
things.
meatloaf.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yucks.
think I guess my next question then is like, what has your personal development journey been like so far? Like, what have you tried to work on in the past? And I don't think you need to necessarily have been successful in it because a journey is not a straight line.
It really is not.
Yeah.
Like, I find so many times in my personal development journey that it's kind of like almost in a circle a little bit. Sometimes patterns repeat themselves and then you relearn. I don't know. It's more like a scribble. It's really more like a scribble. But I think my personal development journey so far has actually, I feel like I have more clarity now than I ever had before, which I think it's something to be proud of. But at the same time, having more clarity than before hurts more than it ever did. Because when you didn't have clarity, you're just like, I suck and
Yeah.
I'm uncool and no one likes me. And it's horrible. It's a horrible thing to feel, but that's all you know, and you're just like, I don't have to do anything, I'm just gonna be like that forever. And then now you have hope. Okay, you have clarity, you have hope, you know what direction you want to go in, and then you realize that some people that just don't fit into your life anymore, or if you want to have a better life for yourself, they just don't fit in there anymore. And then you have to do the painstaking thing of like talking to them, having the big talk, or cutting them out.
Yeah.
And that's the most painful part, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the next question I had, which is the challenges, cutting people out of your life because they don't match your goals anymore, if they're holding you back from your goals is a huge one. And I know that's been a part of a lot of people's journeys. I do understand that. Have you had to deal with anything else? Like, what has held you back?
I'm actually going through something right now, but I don't know if I want to get into the specifics.
That's okay. You don't have to get into it if you're
I
not
will.
comfortable.
I will elaborate on a past event just because it's not as fresh. So one of the times I had to go through something like that was when I was starting my master's course. This was at the start of last year. And I had a friend that I met in my previous grad dip course when I was doing journalism. And I was going through a breakup, and because at that time I wasn't in the best place of my life, it was a really, really bad place that I was in. I couldn't do anything. I was in survival mode for the longest time. And then when I went through the breakup, I obviously was still in survival mode. I was just like, how do I keep myself alive every single day? How do I do this? How do I get out of bed? How do I even do anything that a human, basic human does? So I wasn't looking for a job at that point in time. And also my family had like already known that I went through this breakup with my ex. So they told me just take the summer off. We'll support you with rent, which that was incredible of them to do. So I did take the summer off. Obviously, like it wasn't exactly like it's not my, like I didn't want to do it, but my family insisted I did it, so I did. And then I started uni not having a job, and then my friend just yelled at me in the tram, like not really yelled at me, but kind of just made fun of me for being unemployed or something. And she was like just talking really, really loudly. And I got annoyed because I was like, technically, I'm not unemployed though. Like, I am a student, you know?
Yeah.
And also, when we were doing this grad dip course together, you also didn't have a job. While I did, I never put you down for it. Like, why are you doing it now? I was just very confused. Like, why are you doing this? Yeah. And then I naturally kind of got upset. I got really, really quiet. And I was just thinking like, oh, is she right for saying this? Because I do feel guilt for not having a job. I do feel guilt for being 23 and still relying on my parents.
Yeah.
So I was going through this whole wave of emotions of like, oh, am I a shit person for relying on my parents and all this stuff? And then so eventually I was like, actually, you know what you said was out of line. I'm going to step out and not joining you guys for the night, but you guys go ahead. So I went home and talked to her, and she just agreed that we need some space and never talked to her since. And I'm kind of okay with that because I think it wasn't the first time she made such a comment. Like, she's made a lot of out of pocket comments about me. Like, she's always making me the butt of the joke, which is like,
That's a toxic friendship.
yeah, like once in a while is fine, and when it's stuff that doesn't really matter, you know, it's like there's a line,
Yeah.
and she was crossing it all the time, and I didn't call it out all the time. I only did when it really, really hurt.
Of course.
And then yeah, afterwards we just never spoke again, and she just never reached out. So, but I'm okay with that. If you know, if she's better off now, if she doesn't want to think about it, that's fine. But I'm better to, you know, without having this person in my life.
Yeah, I think that you like you're speaking to this idea of like people not being there to celebrate the steps you make or support you through the difficulties that you have. I've had a friend who acted in a very similar way, who I've known since high school. Well, I should say former friend, who I've known since high school, and who at the time we met, I was, you know, in year 7. I was very young. We were all very young. I wasn't the nicest person back then. I don't think a lot of people are the nicest person when they're 12 years old. And I think I continued to not be the nicest person until I was maybe 14, which is, again, normal for a lot of young people.
Normal. Yeah.
And then after that, I think I grew up a little bit, but she didn't. And what was really frustrating to me was that every little thing I did that I was proud of, she would find a way to criticize it. Every mistake I made, she would poke fun at it and draw attention to it. When I confided things in her that I clearly didn't want people to know, she would talk about it quite loudly in class around other people. And it wasn't until university that I realized she was using me to make herself feel superior. And it took me way longer, I think, than it should have to actually end my friendship with her, because she would often say, she was also not very well liked because she never really grew up. So she would often say things like, you're, you know, one of the only friends I have left. And like, you're one of the only people I feel like I can truly be myself around and confide to. And it would make me feel bad because even though I was kind of on my way out, she would say stuff like that. I'm like, oh God, I can't do this to you.
Yeah. I also feel like the whole, want to just be myself, truly myself around people.
Yeah.
How could they not accept me for who I truly am? It's just kind of like, well, yes and no, because I understand the sentiment, but at the same time, you need to realize that certain things that you might say, even though you're being genuine about it and authentic about it, might be hurtful to some people, and you might be hurting some people, and that's not okay.
Yeah. I also think like, if your genuine self is being mean to other people, then maybe your genuine self is not a very nice person.
Yeah.
What ended things with her is actually relatively similar to your situation, in that I got my first part-time job and I was relatively old. I'd been volunteering for a long time, but this was my first like actual part-time job where I was earning money. And because that made me really busy, and between uni, I would often bail on group outings. We had a lot of mutual friends. So I would often like be like, I I'm not able to come, I have work, or I have to study, I've got assignments to work on, or my parents don't really want me to go out today. That would often be the excuse, and it would often be true. It wouldn't necessarily be a lie. She, I think, insulted my mum and then made fun of the fact that like I was acting high and mighty for having a job.
No, you just have a job.
It was one of those things, like I was at a point in my life where things were changing for me. Like I was finally gaining some semblance of control over my life. Like I was I was not a well child. And I was finally kind of doing things outside of my little internet bubble that made me feel good and made me feel like I was a contributing member to society. So to have her kind of insult me in that way, I was like, this is the final straw. Like I can't do it. And it was unfortunately in a group chat. So it was a bit of a public falling out. But I was like, I'm going to say what I need to say and then I'm out. Peace. And thankfully all of my mutual friends understood.
Yeah. And also, pros and cons to having it in the group chat is
Everyone knows what happened.
Yeah, everyone can agree that that's what happened.
Exactly.
And there's no like twisting of words or anything like that.
Yeah. And I think like I think about there's been a few, unfortunately, friendships that you make early on in life that you realize are not cohesive to the person that you're becoming as you grow older. So I totally get that. I totally understand. And I'm sorry that you're going through what you are right now. It's a difficult one. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I will move on. So and talk about, what do you hope to learn from hosting Self-Improvement Atlas? Because I have learned so much. There have been practices I have taken from the show and applied to my life, and I never actually expected to do that. I will be perfectly honest. When I started hosting the show, I was like, hey, like I'm already working on myself in a way that makes sense to me, and I don't feel ready for outside advice right now. Sometimes you get in that zone where you're like, I think I figured out what works for me and I want to try this now.
Yeah. But I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that you brought that up because I am in that point in my life where I am actually ready to hear outside advice.
Okay.
Because for once in my life, I don't feel like, I don't want to listen to what anyone says. I'm like, because I used to be a really, really stubborn person. It's who I am. Like, just at my core, I'm very stubborn. Sometimes I just want an excuse to not do things.
Yeah.
But now I actually do. Now I actually do want to put in the effort. And I've taken a break from dating. I've dated too much. And now I'm actually like, I'm so, like when people say I'm working on myself, I never believed them before because I just like, why? Like, what does that mean? Like, are you just being alone? But now I'm like, I understand what it means to really, truly work on yourself. And I'm putting more emphasis on myself in my life than I ever have before. So I'm so ready to learn from all these people. And just I reckon there's so many opinions or pieces of advice that I've never heard of before. And I'm just really keen to hear that.
I think there's also what I found is pieces of advice that I've definitely heard before. And I'm like, I know that's good for me, but like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work out for me specifically. And then I've tried it. I think the way that the guest has talked about it has inspired me to try it. And then I have, and I'm like, oh, why didn't I do this years ago when I first heard this piece of advice? Sleeping 8 hours a day is a big part of that, like having a consistent sleeping and wake up schedule has been a huge part of that. And I like exercise as well. I've started doing that a lot more regularly than I used to. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that you're at a point in your life where you're like willing to accept outside advice, which I definitely like didn't expect that I was at that point. So I'm glad that you are. It's also awesome to be, I was, again, not willing to accept outside advice, but in a similar stage in that I'm working on myself. Like that was where I started. And I'm really excited for you to go through the same stuff that I did.
Yeah, mid-20s is just, I was actually terrified of being 25 or like ever being in my mid-20s to late 20s, but I've never felt better Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just like
I turned 25 in the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So sometimes I feel like I missed out on that whole thing. And like I feel like I'm still gonna turn 25 because I've lost out on those years. But I fully get it. Like it's like you think it's gonna be terrifying and then it's here and it's like, actually, you know what? I don't feel old.
Yeah.
I have so much to learn and I love that.
It's insane because I think I was 22 during the pandemic. So a lot of my early 20s, the years of partying, the years of just mucking around, just gone.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm 25.
And you're ready to do it.
And I'm ready to do it, but at the same time, I'm like, where has all the time gone? What was I doing?
Yeah.
You know? But it's fine. You know, I am okay being 25.
I think it's an exciting age to be, and I kind of wish I was 25 right now instead of almost 30.
I did hear that people just suddenly find themselves at 30 though. I do find 30.
Let's see if that happens with me.
Yeah, I did hear that 30 is a magical year. I heard that 30 is great.
I've heard that 30 is the new 20, so
there you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. The era of finding yourself is in your 30s now.
I'm very sorry to everyone who is over 30 and listening to this right now. I heard that 40 is the new 25, if that helps. All right, I might move on now to what is still going to be our practice/habit experiment debrief. Obviously, you are not an expert in the field of personal development. We are both learners, and that is our role as hosts in the show is to learn. But I'm just wondering, like, what's something that you have like consciously tried to do to improve some aspect of yourself?
Consciously tried to do to improve some aspect of myself. I don't know if this helps at all. I personally find that it helps me. I write a lot. I journal whenever I feel stressed about a certain situation, and I try to do it from a very like for example, if it's I'm having trouble with a friend, I will journal out my thoughts and feelings about it. I will take a step back from talking to this person, journal all my thoughts and feelings about it, document like fact after fact what happened, and then try and put myself in this person's perspective and kind of write out how I think they would feel, and that helps me to validate their emotions. And then just I think it validates both sides of the situation. And then I come back to it, and then it helps me craft a clearer message of like, I understand that you felt a certain way. However, I felt this certain way. Both emotions are valid. Both things are what we felt, and that's what we felt. We can't invalidate each other for that.
Yeah.
But this is the series of events that happened, and like, how do we go forward from this? Because, you know, I find that when you argue with someone in the heat of the moment, a lot of things can be said that you might regret. And usually I don't regret things because I'm very like, I don't like to invalidate people's feelings ever, but other people might. And it just helps if you don't argue back, if you don't like fuel the fire, if it's just like, you have to kind of stop them there and be like, all right, you got to take a step back now. We both have to cool off. Clearly, we're both getting too upset. And then come back later. Usually, it's a lot better for the both of us. Because, like, I can be really upset as well. And then, all of a sudden, I'm just like, I can be a smartass. Like, I can be a smartass when I am angry. And it's not always nice. You know, so, and I don't want to do that to anyone. So I think that's what I've been doing a lot more these days. And also trying to explain to someone else, like, not in a patronizing way, but more in like, you know, do you see this is what was happening Yes, you're valid. So am I. Yeah, that kind of thing. And I think it's been helping me with being more patient as well. Because I won't just be like, this person's being so mean and I'm so upset. How could you? Yeah, it's just more of like, okay, you're upset in this moment. So am I. Let's just cool off. I think I rambled quite
No,
a bit.
you
I'm
didn't
sorry.
rabble. I
Yeah.
think I'm pretty sure the practice of journaling has been mentioned multiple times
Great.
in the show, and it's one I definitely practice myself. For me, it's my like. I will be honest, I haven't done it in the past month. That is about to change. But now that I have a bit more spare time on my hands, I can get back to journaling, and I've been itching to do so. But it was, when I was doing it more regularly, part of my nighttime debrief. I'm the kind of person that will often lie to myself about how I've been feeling during a day. Or like if I had a day where I'm feeling really great, and then 3 days later, I'm feeling awful. I just feel like I've been feeling awful the entire month. Like, I'll just lie to myself. And so journaling is a way for me to actually record how I'm feeling and then remember like what I was actually thinking at the time, because I struggle to, my brain is so good at propaganda.
I know my brain does that as well.
Self-propaganda.
That's why I like journaling too.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, well, yeah, but then this is like the hard part for me is journaling when I'm happy.
I find that difficult too.
I'm so good at journaling when I'm sad.
Yeah.
But then when I'm happy, magically, it's all
When
like,
I'm happy, that's when it starts to get weird as well, because it's like, I don't know what I have to write about. I will write about the things that make me happy, and it will be the stuff that's like, just, it'll be something so inconsequential. And then I will overthink why I'm happy. So I'll write to myself, why am I feeling this way? And then I will suddenly try to intellectualize my
Yeah.
happiness on that present day. And I think that's something that like, my only solution to that is therapy. And maybe medication will help me remember my days better too. But I do think like overall, even though there are obviously issues with journaling to a certain extent, doing it when you're happy is difficult. I get it. But it's just a beneficial record for me. Like I'm a handwriter as well. That's how I get my thoughts out on paper. So I can't, like, I can write, be creative onto my laptop, but if I'm really just being true to myself, I have to write it out by hand.
oh, I'm totally different. I am on Tumblr.
Oh no.
Like just
We'll talk about this later.
just projecting my inner 14-year-old.
Yeah, I have been there.
Yeah.
When I said I had my own little internet bubble that struggled to
Tumblr.
escape from, that's exactly what it is. I feel like we could have an entire personal science episode on the dangers of Tumblr on like millennials and Gen Z, because it is bad.
Yeah. I had so
It's
many
helpful.
Yeah.
But it's bad.
I had so many different kinds of vlogs. And they were also different as well. I had like a fresh theme one, and then I had a pastel grunge one, and then I had a soft goth one. I don't know how.
I relate to you a little too much.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on before this gets derailed, because we could definitely talk about that. But like that's a whole other conversation. That's a can of worms. We now, like normally at this stage of a normal episode, I would have what's called questions from the audience, in which the audience gets to ask a bunch of questions to an expert. You're not an expert, and we don't have an audience there to ask you questions. So instead, I'm going to allow you the opportunity.
No, I'm sorry. It's just really funny when you keep emphasizing you're not an expert.
You aren't, though.
But I'm not an expert.
But I guess I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me questions, because I know I had so many when I jumped into the show, and I had no one to ask these questions to. So I think it might be beneficial for you to have the opportunity to ask me anything you want. And I'm going to give you a total of 3, because I know you have more than that. But we need to make sure that it's limited.
Okay, yeah, 2. Okay. You have to limit me. Yes, my first question is, what's your biggest takeaway as a host for Self-Improvement Atlas?
Do you mean like about the show or something specific I've learned from the show for myself, or
Just in general, what's like the biggest thing you've learned? It could be like as the host, or it could be what you've learned from a particular very memorable guest, or it could be just, you know, very generically how to talk to people or something, or how to make people feel comfortable.
I think my main takeaway from this particular show is that there are so many more ways to develop yourself than I thought. This has me thinking about my finances. Like, I've come out of episodes like, do I need to write my will? Do I need to get my estate in order? I don't have property. I don't have anything to pass on. I'm not anywhere near having dependents. I have a dog who cannot own property, and that's about it. And I'm like, do I need to be thinking about that kind of?
Do I need to be
Do I even have anything that I would want to pass on? The only thing I can think of is my social media passwords, which I definitely don't want to go to my parents.
Yeah. And I also can't remember them.
Unfortunately, I do remember them
Oh,
because
wow.
I have 3 variations. Okay. Same
Well,
password.
I do have the 3 variations, the same thing.
You just don't remember
I just
which
don't
is
remember
what.
which is what.
Yeah,
Yeah. Never remember.
My Google Chrome will have a
Yeah.
storage of it somewhere, but not. There's probably going to be an episode on password safety at some point.
So I need that because I keep all my passwords and notes.
Yeah, I definitely don't have good password safety practices either. Yeah, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway is that there's like way more. When I got into this, you know, even though I knew personal science was broad, even though I knew going into the show that personal science was going to be huge, I always just assumed there was like a general self-improvement angle to it that would focus on stuff like willpower or, you know, nutrition. And those are a lot of the earlier episodes I was doing as well. But there's so many aspects of personal development that I just never even considered, you know, the financial stuff, relationships. It's been, I've learned a lot, and I think I've talked to people that I wouldn't have otherwise talked to. And I know that will be the same experience for you. So,
yeah, I'm excited because my dad's been egging me on to do a finance course, which I can't say that I'm extremely excited for, but if I have to do it, I might as well do it here. I might as well learn it here.
We've got 5 episodes probably, I think, in total out, and you have got a episode coming up on estate planning. So that's a spoiler alert for a future episode. But yeah, cool. Next question.
That's a lot of pressure. Okay, so who's your favorite person in the team?
Don't ask me that. You told me you were going to ask me this before we recorded, and I was like, don't ask me that.
Yeah, but then you went on to ramble about how everyone's great for everything.
That's sincerely what I believe. Yeah. Everyone has their place on our team and their place as they play their roles as specific kind of friends in my life. One of the things I love about the LMSL team, and one of the things I am going to continue forward with even after I leave the company, is the friendship that the hosts have developed with each other, and that I'm excited for you to join in on. And I think it's so difficult for me to pick a favorite person. I do want to shout out to Lou. I think Lou has made this an extremely easy place to work at. She's made it incredibly comfortable. I have never, as a creative, it's impossible to avoid feeling stifled at certain points when you are working not in your own interests, when you're not working for yourself, essentially. There's always going to be points where you feel stifled. But I think when that's happened, Lou has always found a way to justify that in a way that doesn't make me feel like I've been cheated or that I've missed out on something. I always feel like I have been given very good reasons for a lot of the decisions that have been made. And Lou just makes it very easy for me to give feedback and to receive feedback as well. So I will shout out to her. I'm not saying that she is my favorite member of the team because I don't have one. But I do want to shout out to her.
Yeah, I agree. I've only been, I started work here last week, but I already feel so at home. Even from when I came in here for the job interview, it was so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I think I met you. Yeah, that's the first time I met you there, actually, right? And you guys were just chatting away with me, and it was just so, it just felt like home.
Yeah.
And that was nice feeling. And then going through all the the new person in the team stuff. Yeah, Lou made it so easy, and she's so approachable, and actually everyone in the team is really approachable, and everyone's always so open to being asked questions, but also socializing, which I can't say that I've experienced in every workplace, because some workplaces are like, yes, culture and stuff, but actually, no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not one of those places.
Yeah.
And I really, truly feel like everyone's just really just so nice.
Yeah.
And just really genuinely like each other.
And I
That's
think
it.
when when we're learning about things like well-being and learning about happiness, you're learning about ways to make the environment around you more pleasant. It's kind of impossible for it to be a difficult working environment.
Yeah. If it is, then
We won't be one of those
Yeah.
stories. All right. One more question.
One more question. Yes. What advice do you have for me?
That's a good one. What advice for hosting Self-Improvement Atlas? I think you don't have to do as much research as you think you do. It's always good to do a little bit. I personally don't feel comfortable without doing a little bit of research into what my topic is and having a basic understanding of what I'm talking about before I get into it. But if I've learned anything, the people you talk to are going to be willing to explain the topic to you. That's part of the reason why they're there. And it's also part of the reason why you're there. So yes, like do a little bit of research, but you don't need to spend ages trying to get your head around it. Because the people you speak to will do that for you. They will do that work for you. And I find I'm a conversational learner. So for me to have those conversations is far more valuable than me reading an article on the internet trying to explain what the topic
100%.
is.
I'm the same. Yeah. That does put me at ease because I do get really stressed out about, like, because I saw all the topics that we're doing next, and some of them I just don't understand.
I think, full disclosure, and I do not get to talk about this much, like as a host. As a host, the audience just sees me walk in, ask a bunch of questions, and I mildly look like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't always. I think there's so much, like I said, so many topics that I know very little about, and it can be really intimidating, but the questions that you have in your head are worth asking. They're not stupid questions.
Good, because I have tons of questions. But I also have to keep track of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do.
Sorry.
You do.
Have to pick the most important ones. Fine. Fine, I'll do it.
All right. Well, thank you for asking me all of those questions. Normally we would cut to the open mic as we normally do on our show, but as a host, we're going to be hearing a lot from you now. So I'm going to skip that process. You're going to have plenty of open mics on your own in the future. And I'm going to go, I guess, where should people If they want to see you, if they want to talk to you, if they want to find out more about you, where should they go?
I have Twitter and Instagram at Stella with an extra A. So it's like at Stella.
Stella.
Stella. Yeah, Ree's just like Marie, but like the last three letters RIESTELLA. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marie. This is the end of this particular recording, but we are definitely going to continue a lot of the conversations we started in this episode beyond this. So thank you. I guess I wanted to end by saying, and apologies if I keep reading my notes, I wrote everything down because I didn't want to miss anything. It's the end of my stint with Self-Improvement Atlas and with LMSL. I've had a really wonderful time hosting the show. And like I said, the topics we've talked about are so varied. And there's so many that lie outside of my interests. I have learned so much from people who are way smarter than me. And conversations with people who are smarter than me are my favorite kinds. So it's been a pleasure. And I think everything I've learned from the show that I've implemented in my personal life has changed my life for the better. And I hope that the episodes I recorded so far have done the same for you if you're watching at home. I'm going to continue listening and supporting Marie, even though she did tell me that she didn't want me to. But I know you'll do a wonderful job. I am sure you will. I wanted to also point out that we do produce other shows ranging from the topic of family science to household management. And you can find the links to all of them in the show notes down below or on our website, lmsl.net. But until then, thank you for listening and welcome, Marie.
Oh, thank you.
You've been listening to Self-Improvement Atlas, the personal science insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can also be found on our website at pe.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Aditi Kutty. Thanks for tuning in.